what are you working on?
Excellent. So this I want to be very collaborative. Not a very big presentation, PowerPoint heavy thing, but I want it to be very collaborative. So just off the, if everyone can raise their hands, how many of you are familiar what a marketplace is? A tech-enabled marketplace. Perfect. So that's much easier. So a lot of people we talk to are like, what is that? I don't get it. And it's the easiest way we try to make the analogy like it's Uber essentially. Nobody calls cabs anymore. Uber is a two-sided marketplace. So you have the driver and the passenger. And so that's what we're trying to do for medtech development. And it's new in the medtech space. However, in life science and health tech and digital tech, there's another company that's out there doing similar work, and they just closed a $10 million round with 1 million coming from American Heart Association. So it's definitely starting to see that the medical and the healthcare industry is embracing this digitizing, if you will, of resources.
You
So
mentioned Uber. I feel compelled to share. You guys know I like to trade. That's what I'm doing with my time these days. Uber got hit hard yesterday because Waymo is disrupting them.
yeah.
The disruptor is disrupted.
What's Waymo?
Waymo is the driverless cars that have the, you know,
Yeah, wasn't there just a big investment from China into Waymo? So there was some concerns around the data being pushed over there.
I didn't, I'm not aware of that. And Waymo is not public, so, it's not like I was exploring it or anything. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I was in Phoenix for Thanksgiving and I saw a lot of Waymo cars and I was like, wow, now that I'm seeing them around, it became so much more real that I was telling Jen how the 10 years from now, we're gonna see, Waymo semis hauling um, things across the country. And I thought, how are you going to refuel? And I think what's going to have to happen is um, there'll have to be a build out of refueling stations that a human just waits for the cars to show up to recharge or refuel or do whatever. Anyhow,
Wow.
Joe,
Yeah.
there's a significant benefit to being a driverless car.
yeah,
Me personally, one of the reasons why we were hit by a drunk driver in 2018 going 77 miles an hour was because our driver was on opioids. And so she had a very slow response mechanism, right? And so there's massive cases against these car companies, these service companies, for liabilities from and improper uh, acts being performed from these drivers.
and Waymos don't sleep. They
I
don't
know.
get drowsy.
It's impressive.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now for this small little presentation I do have.
Sorry to bring down the room.
Alyssa, you never bring down the room, never. So I want to bring it back a little bit to NoWaymo now, the Uberizing, if you will, the medtech industry, and understand what PitchInc is, and it's that two-sided marketplace. But in order to understand that, I want to give a little background, and again, make this collaborative. Stop me at any point, Stephen, you're rambling, just let me know. But my background and how we came up with this concept. I've been a medical device rep for 13, 14 years. It's actually where I met not Steve and Steve Safuto down in Miami. So we both were working in sports medicine procedures. Hip arthroscopy was really my area that I loved, and we were lucky enough to work with one of the design surgeons and one of the world-renowned hip arthroscopists, Dominic Carrera. I think that's where Steve and I both kind of got also I'll speak for you a little bit, but that itch into med device innovation and development. This doctor was always trying to create something new, and we always just we came up short trying to come to marketing teams and figure out what to do. Fast forward a few years, I move into one of these portfolio manager and marketing roles at Stryker. So I'm managing their global knee sports medicine position, developing products, and I realized that problem that we had with Dr. Carrero was much bigger than anything we realized before. Industry, when you have physicians come to you, we do this slow no courting thing. When it's 4 to 6 months, take the physician to dinner, try to get them to use more products. And then at the end of that period, it's, hey, we love the concept. We really just don't have the resources to bring it on board, but can you try to use some of the other ones? And it's not in malicious intent. It's truly, we just didn't have the resources. I mean, I remember just working crazy hours in these jobs and we needed more, just didn't have the budget for more. But they would buy the product if it was past a certain point. I know I'm not saying anything new to a lot of you, but they would buy the product when it's past a certain point. And that honestly really upset me is these physicians had nowhere else to go to try to develop products. And Tiger can speak to that as well. Tiger, you and I talked in the early stages and thank you for your feedback. And you told me get out here and talk to everybody about it. So here we are, almost a year later. But that's what we did. We tried to set out to try to fix that slow no problem. And that's what we came up with pitch sync. And the name itself is when you're in medical sales, on day one, you're told, figure out how to give a scrub sync pitch. So the scrub sync is really like the watering hole where all these innovative conversations happen. So we decided to name the company around that as we want to try to be the watering hole, if you will, of medtech innovation. So we're setting out to democratize the whole innovative process, whether that's finding resources. As of now, stage 2, we want to try to find funding, but you also want to try to create a community around it. And so we built out this network and this ecosystem of physician entrepreneurs, of consultants, and decided how do we go about this? Do we want to do it either like as a agency, or do we want to try to Uberize it? And we came up with this Uberizing on demand method. And a few people on this call are actually on our platform. So we're really thankful for what they've done for us. And so we built out PitchSync and we built out Hive, which is our collaborative community, which is, we'll kind of do a demo of both of them, but it is a space where you imagine like LinkedIn, Slack, and you can come and connect with like-minded individuals and have meaningful conversation and connect to people over the world. And it's been really fun to do that. We launched that a couple weeks ago as well. I signed on last Saturday and I saw someone from Portugal talking to someone at HSS, and it's like, wow, this is actually really working. This is really, really fun. So it's been fun to see that come to fruition as well. So we'll just take a quick peek back at kind of like what we wanted to fix in these outdated models. And that for us was, again, it started with physicians. And then when we launched, we realized there's a lot of companies that are coming to us that had the same problem that we did when we were trying to launch, is trying to find resources. And so we looked at what these outdated models are, and that some of these are agency models, mainly like recruiting agencies. There was a lot of gatekeepers. It was just really frustrating to try to develop a product this way, just knowing that you couldn't get access to resources when you wanted to, which is on demand. Incubators, not everybody gets into them. So how do we try to solve that? We keep getting denied from incubators because they keep saying we are way too alike what they're doing and they don't understand. Our mission is to be complementary to the industry and not competitive. We want to help them grow their network even more. And then the strategics. And then on the Hive side, it's static communities and trying to find a way to make it a little bit more dynamic. And so that's kind of, again, I'm rambling here, apologize, but it's exciting. So this is what we developed, the platform, and then the platform interacts and collaborates with Hive, the community. And Hive was built out of almost necessary from our resource network, saying we want a place to be able to come and communicate with everybody, but we also want to find a way to build our essentially consultant business. So we've built a way to connect and interact these, which we'll do a demo of each. Any questions at this point?
I'm eager for that demo because, the way you've described it so far, I hear LinkedIn and I hear Slack and I think, well, we have LinkedIn and Slack for that.
Yeah. But
I,
if you look at
I mistakenly, I know there are differences between what you're doing and what I've attempted to do with premium.
yeah.
I
So
just don't know what they are yet. I couldn't articulate it.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and just look at the Hive platform. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
So we've about 50 members so far, but this is like you can see just members from across the country, across the world of just who's joining the platform. And we wanted, again, a dynamic space so I can click on Kristen and have a conversation with Kristen right from here. It's really nice. You can see where they're at. This is looking at from the admin view. If I was looking at it as a user, there's an AI function where you actually have people that have like interests, and it'll connect you with them immediately to try to grow some type of connection. So it's a little bit more of a dynamic than a static platform. So you'd have all the members here. You'd have the feed, which is what anybody wants to post. This would be like what your LinkedIn would be. And you can see different, we've got an interview with Marty. I'm not sure if anybody knows Marty Nichols, but he's great, super passionate about trying to fix the financial sides of healthcare. So you can see all the different things that people are posting. Like, this is nice when you see someone from Portugal talking to people from, HSS. Like, that's really cool to see that you've made that connection together.
I'm sorry, what's HSS?
Hospital for Special Surgery, the network in New York, the hospital system in New York. So this is what it looks like. This is the Hive platform. This would be the feed. This would be the popular, where you can see the different posts that are going through, what people are engaging with the most.
Hive is not proprietary to you. It's a platform on which you're building your thing.
I built Hive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Steve will joke, I built Hive in 7 days like a crazy person. I didn't sleep much. I wanted to get this up and moving pretty quickly.
You did the programming yourself?
It was a no-code, low-code platform, and then a lot of API built into it as well.
Okay.
So
It looks like Uma CMS. Is that right? Megan, figure.
yeah, I'm not familiar with Uma, but there's people platforms. There's dynamic people platforms that people build, and this is one of them that you build your platform on. So we built it out.
Quick question, from the Mighty team, what does that mean?
So this is the Mighty network that we built it from. This is only
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I'm familiar with. I was just curious.
Yeah, it's great. Honestly, this is the best way to build community. This, or there's several other ones. It's the most cost-effective route, and then it's just the most engaging. Like, we tried to do this ourselves, and we realized it would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so.
Right.
Might just stay awake for a few days and learn how to build all this yourself. So we've had a fun time with it.
No, I'm very happy with on other communities within that scope of the system.
Yeah, what's fun about this is, for us, it's been a leader into some of the organizations we typically wouldn't have access to. So we just built out an entire platform for the Diversity by Doing group, which is owned by Fogarty Innovation and Stanford Biodesign. So now we're hosting their cohorts, their internships, their pathways, like, to give you a peek at what this looks like. But you've got all these different events that they're pushing through here. Actually, let's look into 2025. All the different events they're hosting, everything is right here. Their chat. So you can also have, and it'd be nice for, Joe, your conference, post-conference communication and collaboration with each other in one place. And so it's been really fun to see this. They're onboarding 200 people. I want to say on Monday, we begin that process. And then I made one for Sean as well.
Stephen, when Stephen first presented, one of my issues as a founder and a developer and inventor from day one is I don't know who is credentialed enough for this specific type of product we're trying to develop, right? And we went through 5 engineers to find them. To find that one person that is selective, global thought leader in this one little tiny sector of medtech, who can do additive design as well as manufacturing, who understands how to push both to the limit, to the extreme limit, right? And had I found somebody right from day one that was that 1%, it would have saved me 4 years of that journey, right? And a lot of time. So one of the things that I encourage Stephen to do is to offer reviews, because of each individual person, that a user review, so people like me can say, this person was a 5-star for this exact specific sector of medtech.
Yeah. Which that would be on the other platform, PitchInc, which is the talent marketplace. I was just trying to do that for Joe, but Alyssa, we'll definitely talk about that. That's been fun because we've also integrated, like we all talked about and Tiger talked about, is pushing videos so people can understand who that person actually is and understanding who they, what they've worked on in the past. So
yeah, because Tiger was influential in my journey as well. So if you know Tiger, you change your whole company, right? But how do you get to know Tiger?
Right? Well, that's the problem, is so many of these companies now, yours, other companies we've worked with, they're all built on fractional work. They're all built on consulting work. And you have your immediate network, that's great. But if you don't have anybody in your immediate network, what do you do next? And that's what we realize, and that's what we try to fix with both of these. So Hive has also worked as a feeder for us to be able to find more consultants that can come to us, and then we can engage with them and interact. Do they actually fit the mold of what we want on here? And that's someone that fits Tiger and this whole group. Is we want you to be empowering to each other. We want to push innovation forward, and we want to do so the right ways and help each other out and not be predatory on companies. So it's been really fun for that. Oh, this is news that will launch here in the next few weeks. We are partnering and have partnered with Merge Medical, which is a physician investment network. And so we're actually going to be doing the exact same thing that MSK Innovations and Drew did, but this will be hosted on our Hive platform. It will be where startups can come talk to us and they can go pitch like a once a month to different investors, physician investors, and we'll record it and keep it on this platform as well for them to be able to use it. So that's something that's also been very exciting for Hive.
How many members do you presently have? Because, size begets size.
Yeah, so they have 100+ members. We have 50 on here. We'll have 250 by the end of next week. And then Sean and I have been talking about trying to build something out here as I could just put something together for him of how this would work as well. So we honestly haven't even done any marketing behind it really. It's been more just organic and word of mouth.
You know what's interesting is I'm very excited about the concept, but what I'm trying to, and this is probably just me, it's like I don't have all day to go learn Hive and build it into my day. It would be really great if you came up with here's a 15-minute training tool, how you can spend 15 minutes a day building your Hive network. Because I have 8 clients and I can tell you they're all divas, even though I say they're not. And so they all want 40 hours a week, but they only want to pay for 10. And so if you could come up with a way, and you can even test it with me, because if I can find a way to do it for 15 or 20 minutes a day and make it part of my day, that's really where you're going to get those earlier adopters faster. Because I am very excited. I signed up and then I'm like, crap, it's been 2 weeks. I can't even go look at it.
I know. The key for Hive, and then we try to push everything, download the app. You download the app because then you get the push notifications of what's happening from there, and then you can check it from that. But yeah, it's habit, trying to create that habit and trying to keep engagement, which Sean and I've talked about. Like, how do you do that in a network? And it's hard to do, but it's growing for sure.
Well, if you want to test it with me and start, because I'm like one of those people that takes a while to get into something, I'm more than willing to be one of your testers to figure out how do you get that early adopter by dragging them in slowly and changing their habit. Just some words of.
No, let's definitely catch up. That's why we're here.
You said something about you're automatically connected. AI decides who you be close to. How does that what?
So AI will take a profile into consideration. Steve, are you on here? Do you have okay, well, AI will take a profile into consideration like Dr. Cole. And it'll see what they have about them, who they are, and it'll actually start matching you based off of the different personal links that you have in here and all of this information and say, hey, you have a like profile, similar profile with person X. You should connect with them. And that's what we saw. Where'd it go? That's what I saw with Rami and Daniel. So they're able to connect from there. So it's nice to actually have that dynamic connection possibilities where, Nelly, to your point, it's kind of doing that for you a little bit and making it a little bit easier.
Go ahead, please, in the comments and put a link for us to, while we're listening, we can sign up and get it, try it out.
Yeah, I will do that. I'll move over to PitchSync real quick too, so we can kind of walk through that. Actually, here, let me stop sharing and then I'll put a free link in the comments for you guys. But Hive, to your point, Nelly, it's difficult to try to push engagement when there's it's not part of the daily flow. So that's something we're all trying to figure out how to do. But 1 second, everybody, and I'll just put this link in there.
Like I said, developing a new business habit is very hard. That's one of the things with my teams, like, hey, we're developing a business habit because I'm noticing a flaw here. And I've found it takes about 6 weeks to get that new, it's not like a habit like your daily, but getting a new business habit takes longer than when you're doing your 30 days.
Yeah.
Like if you're changing, if they say, hey, if you work out 30 days, you've developed a new habit, you'll need to do it. It's a business habit, it takes longer.
Yeah. I can never make it to the full 30 days. I always get tired. So back to PitchSync now. So again, I want to thank a lot of people on this network, on this call right now. When we developed this platform, we started and launched back in May of last year, pulled back a little bit due to some personal issues that we had, and also just, to be unfair, like almost lost my mom twice that year, and then I had a few knee surgeries. So let's pull back and let's get all of our personal lives in order to and relaunch it. So when we were in this stealth mode, as Jonathan, you're in right now, we wanted to gather as much data as possible. We knew that there was going to be changes within our model and our pricing model in the way that our whole platform actually functions. So we really went back to our network of consultants and had them build out exactly what our payout strategy and pricing strategy would look like. And so for consultant, we take a 7.5% transaction rate of the entire project. And then we have now two different options. A lot of people really hated hourly work, so we've just fully removed the hourly process to it. So you either have a full-time project or retainer project. And then on the pricing, on the client side, Alyssa was really instrumental in this as well. And then we also kind of triangulated information based off of the other comparable platform. For clients, we have a couple different versions. So you have a free version, which you can actually sign up for the platform, post a project, and engage with somebody for free without having to put your credit card information in. But in order to actually kick off the job, you'd have to put your credit card information in. Then we take a 10% take of that. This is the only platform I know that actually allows that allows you to actually engage and interact with someone without paying for it up front. As a bootstrap founder, I couldn't ask somebody to do what I wouldn't be able to afford. And I don't want to stifle any innovation because someone can't afford to have a conversation and strategize where to go. And so then the next,
When do I charge 10? I'm not following when I pay and what you get.
yeah, so if you're going to put a project through and say, I don't want to talk to a regulatory strategist and my budget's $10,000,
Right.
you don't have to pay to actually have access to talk to somebody on our platform. And for better or for worse, other platforms that are like this, you can post a project, you can get connected to see who would be a good consultant to work with, but you don't get their contact information. You have to pay an additional $8,000 for 6-month access for that. And so for us, we said that's just not doable for a lot of physicians. That's not doable for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Right.
How do we make this even easier for people?
So
Good.
so I would put up the 10,000 ahead of time.
Depends on what it would be. It depends if it's a retainer and like I've got $10,000, but this is my total budget for 3 months, or if it's for a
Right.
one-time
But
project.
basically at the time I post here, I
You,
I say that it's 10, but my cost is 1,000, which is what you take immediately.
there's nothing until you actually initiate the project. And once you initiate the project, then we take a 25% deposit for the one-time payment. And I'll walk you through exactly what that would look like. Our pricing model for clients is either a free with 10% add-on to whatever the project would be. There's a limitation of projects on there. There's a SaaS model that starts to kick in now where there's a $2,500 annual subscription. That 10% goes down to 5%, and there's no job limitation. Then full-time hiring capability comes in at an additional rate from here. And then the startup model is $10,000, no additional fees, but you still have to pay the consultant their fees.
I don't know what your budget is at this point in the development. I
Yeah,
would love to see short, extremely clear explainer videos about because you just said a lot of things and it went through me.
gotcha. I can do that. I can send you full explainer videos. Essentially, what we've tried to do is price compare to what's on the market already, and then make ourselves more aggressive, if you will, for clients and make it a little bit more cost effective.
I'm imagining the explainer video is being animated
Got
and
it.
being like something that's on the platform. So if, like, if you are this, watch this video. If you are this, watch that video.
So like this pricing model here, but then just animate this.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, this would be the $10,000 package, but I'll have the animator videos for that.
Hey, Steven,
Yep.
so I'm talking to Tiger on the side here, full disclosure.
Hey,
Both of
Tiger.
us still don't like the transaction fee because it still doesn't de-risk. So the goal here for me as an entrepreneur is to de-risk. And
Yeah.
so if I'm paying a transaction fee up front, why wouldn't I just go over to LinkedIn and talk to them?
You can try to find them, and that's the same with any marketplace. Our transaction fee is still much lower than the other comparable platform
Yeah, but I would never use them.
know.
And that's the thing. Like this could be really powerful, really, really powerful. But you guys are literally, you're building this, right? Which is expensive to build, right? But you literally do nothing after it's built. And so the problem that I have across the board with sites like this, so I have there's a fantastic funding connector that has an app that takes the AI data and says these family offices are investing in certain companies. But they want an upfront fee, plus they want 5% on every transaction just for giving me a list.
Yeah.
No
Ridiculous.
way. Yeah. And all they do is they did the work up front and then they sit back and generate profits. And that's not okay in my book. So I am really against that because there's nobody with a lower amount of income than a startup,
Yeah.
as
So
you know.
what would be the other option that you would present here? Because it's
$100 transaction fee right up front.
oh, what was it? $100?
$100 transaction fee, clear, or a subscription. If you want to be on here, you want to stay connected, subscription for the consultants of $100 a month. Something that's, like people love Tiger's setup because it's cheap. You get solutions immediately. There's a call for help button basically in general, and it's fluidity. And speed is our best, as a startup, speed is our most important and valuable asset. And so with this, it's the exact same process of me asking, is this person any good? Phone a friend. And it's actually worse because you don't have the LinkedIn network to see if people are connected together. There's no rating system to know that it's viable. And so I really encourage you to consider focusing on making this cost effective. And I know you will.
Yeah, so the question that I have is how is it not cost effective if it's say your job project's $10,000 and we're adding, a 10% charge or 5,000 or because but the problem is
It's
the
a
scale.
car for me. Yeah, it's a car for me. That's 3 years of my son's school, right?
Yeah.
Plus another $1,000, right?
Yeah.
So because nobody is funding my company right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Everything is out of our pocket.
I'm trying to figure out like what's the difference between like saying, okay, I need someone for $5,000 and I'm just going to go have to pay an additional fee on a small fee on top of that, like 5%, versus going to an agency and saying, okay, well, I need somebody, and now you have to wait for the agency to come back, and so therefore you're kind of at the mercy of that rather than you can actually engage with them. Because that's what a marketplace is, though, and we do have the subscription value of it, which is like $7,000 less than the comparables. I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how do you scale it and keep the economics there for everybody involved.
You know what Facebook Marketplace that beat any classified ad, any whatever they took over because it was free and it was transparent and it provided ratings and it provided throughput and it let the people connect, right? These
That's
companies, like if you're going to create a marketplace, allow it, and that's why LinkedIn is successful. I mean, I get solicitations so much that I had to bring Ann in, Joe and Tiger's person. So I'm like, do you want the whole world or do you want just a handful of people? And this is the economy as a play, right?
Yeah. I just don't know if the economics makes sense to be able to try to charge a subscription. It would shut down pretty quickly, or you'd have to have hundreds of thousands of people using it. And that's not what we want. We want an atomic network that actually makes sense. Like the consultants came with the payout strategy of the 7.5% rather than a subscription because it's free for them to join. And then on the consultant or for the client side, the unit of economics to me just don't make sense from a scalability stance. You just you can't keep it live.
Absolutely, you could with advertising spots.
And
That's
advertising's
how
not gonna happen until you have a critical
Yeah.
mass. I mean, that's years from now.
Yeah. And even then, do we want to have like something that has ads all over it? I kind of go against that just because I'd rather this be,
I don't agree with you, Alyssa. I don't see that as viable here.
Oh, so we had 27 companies sign up in 3 weeks that all were like, that's all you're charging. So, and they were more than happy to say, pay for a strategist to say, oh, I need to de-risk my LinkedIn strategy. And no one's had an issue with it so far.
I think that's great. I'm here to, push
Yeah.
back. Like
That's That's
Love
why I
it.
love you
We're
so
here.
much.
That's why I invited him to do this. I'd
Yeah.
like to add, this is somewhat trivial, but the page before with the plans, I actively dislike the acronym of PS. All I
Yeah.
can think of is postscript.
Okay.
PS something. And if you were to pronounce that, it is urinary, and I just don't think that's where you want to go. I don't think spelling out pitch sink is a bad thing.
Okay.
It's a neat. I think you use the colors there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll definitely.
I would never use PS.
Yeah. Good to know. We can take it off.
This is perfect for people that don't have industry connections, right? This is perfect.
But who is
That's
that
where
person?
people, I'm sorry?
Who is that person that knows absolutely nobody?
I'm saying that they don't have a network that they don't have a phone a friend,
Alex,
right?
how can you possibly raise your hand? What are you talking about?
I hear you for sure, but there's so many serial entrepreneurs that have come to us now that said, I need someone for XYZ, and they don't have in their network that capability. And that's where we've been able to help quite a bit.
You
Yeah.
know,
So,
I raised my hand because April 1st, 2009, when I started Faircare, that was me. Even though I'd sold my first startup for healthcare in the 90s, I had been out of it for a while. So I went to a meetup group and I started to meet people, and everything else followed after that.
Yes,
But
but
yes,
then
you're right. I
you linked
currently
up
know a few people.
Yeah, you connected with them on LinkedIn.
yeah. But that's the goal, is to democratize the entire process, because unless you are in the industry, you don't have access to any of these resources, and take funding into consideration. That's a nightmare in itself to try to democratize that. So that's what we're trying to do, is make it more accessible and have more innovation coming through, because you have access to in one centralized hub to all these different resources. I love the conversations, Alyssa. I just don't know how to make the economics work
For you,
for us, and just to keep it on and functioning, or
right?
the platform, without doing, I mean,
Agreed. The only problem is that we, your customers, not the people in this room, will obviously love you. We don't give a shit what your economics are.
yeah,
Every SaaS company's problem, right? Because until
Yeah.
you have a functional, viable product that actually solves things and changes people's users, changes people's what's the word I'm looking for?
Behavior.
Behaviors. Thank you. Nobody cares, and so they're not going to change until it's fully developed. Every single
And
SaaS company has this.
Nellie says she wants to be a beta tester. She signed up and she hasn't done shit for 2 weeks. That's a lot of us. How many of us have something delivered to their email and they're like, oh, I need to watch that. And you bookmark it and you never
Yeah.
watch it.
And I want to, believe it or not, I really
I know. And then when you have 50 of them, you're like, okay, well, I certainly don't have time for 50. And you know you're not going to watch number one. You know, if you start, you'll watch like 50 and 49, and then Paige will call you and you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's something I have to do right now. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Stephen, have you thought about moving the commission to the back end? So once the client and the consultant do a $10,000 project and they both say, it's like eBay, when your thing has been shipped and received, then the money gets transferred.
So the money doesn't transfer out immediately.
Okay.
The money transfer, 25% deposit of the total project cost would transfer out, and then that percent is taken of throughout that process. So therefore, the consultant is actually in full autonomy to bill where they want to. But in order for the project to initiate, it's only 25% deposit. We're not asking for that 10, 20, 30, $50,000 up front. Payment terms are essentially, we built autonomy into there to allow that to be billed for as they want. But in order for it to kick off, it would be done that way. Now we have a $500,000 project that's happening as a monthly retainer. So that's paid for as a typical retainer would be. So, and we've given autonomy to allow the consultant to actually bill for that need be.
Why don't you do it 100% on the back end for small projects? Have a threshold. So like less than $10,000 project, it's all paid on the back end when both sides are happy.
how would you as a consultant would you be okay with working for free for the first couple, like not having no type of
Depends on how hungry you are. If a lot of consultants are really hungry.
No,
Yeah.
not me. I get money up front, baby. I
Yeah,
got
so
bills and
you're-
houses to
Well,
pay.
Nellie's good. Nellie's really good, and she's doesn't need the business probably.
That's why we came up with that 25% deposit initiation to be able to provide safety for both
But
sides.
I mean, what I'm saying in different words from Alessa is you're creating friction on the front end. And you've got to, I mean, we've talked about this. So Stephen presented on Bone Chat before he went live, and we had a really good discussion. You've the only thing that matters right now is finding the business model to attract 1,000 members. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that matters. And so you've got to figure out what the freemium version is to get 1,000 people, and then you've really got something.
I actually kind of want to step back a second because I think the challenge is we're trying to find one way to fit all. And I kind of want to encourage Stephen to maybe in the early adoption phase, companies don't have a single pricing module. They have hey, let me negotiate with you while I'm getting popular enough to make it this, like DocuSign. When DocuSign first came out, they didn't have a standard pricing model. You negotiated and you got what fit you. Now you're screwed. You have to go with their pricing model because they're big enough they're the best out there.
Which
So
is expensive as well.
yeah, my suggestion is negotiate individually with each person that can't offer here's our basic one and here's our investor version and here's our entrepreneur or enterprise version. And then the ones, the latter ones are the ones you're negotiating with. Is like, hey, we can do this with you and this with you, and then set up special contracts in the beginning. It's not a permanent solution, but it gets you those 1,000 doctors where maybe you've got people who come in that entry level version and they just want to pay a monthly fee. But then like Alyssa, who can't afford it, maybe she's paying on the back end, and that might get you more in your basket.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it can't afford it. We're talking about if you're an inventor, right? And you're looking at, do I add another $1,000 on or onto this project? And these projects are not $10,000 projects. These projects are a lot more expensive, right? For MedTech. So I think that this is the perfect application. I think Stephen did a really good job for universities and institutions where they're trying to build innovation centers, right? This is not for me because I know people deeply for 20 years in the industry, right? And I can do a phone a friend. This is really for consultants who want to appeal to these innovation centers, and they will pay that price. I do not agree with pricing negotiations. The amount of people and time that takes is you have to have a call center basically if you want 1,000 people to negotiate with. So I mean, you have to have several people that you're employing. You're literally employing. So, and you don't do that as a startup. You want everybody like 1099. You want as little as speed, right?
Even
So yeah, I'll continue. I think I think there's a little they're not paying up front for the project at all. And I don't know if that's something that you guys think is happening. It's that they're paying as they're wanting to go. Yes. Sue, I saw your hand up.
Well, I just wanted to ditto what Elisa said is as a first time startup, you don't have a big budget, so you know you're spending all your money in R&D and you're developing a pitch deck and you're talking. I mean, for me, I talked to about 10 people who can help me with a pitch deck for nothing. And so I think that you should offer, different tiers, like a one-time fee, a maintenance fee, and a startup fee. So I think that's probably a good way because I wouldn't pay for this. I couldn't.
Yeah. That's in there. There's a free version where you can actually fully engage and interact with someone and understand, is this something that we're going to do or not? And then if it's something they're not going to do, you don't have to pay for it. And so that's in there. You can actually engage and interact with anybody without paying for $1.
And the other question I had was, it seems like it's interactive as far as, but not personal. You know, you don't have that person that you're on that phone with and you're talking to understand the value prop or whatever. So I think it's lacking some personalization.
Good, thank you, appreciate that, yeah.
Before
Yeah,
before you speak, Jonathan, I have to ask Jack Green to come on camera because I've not seen you since 10X a year and a half ago. So you have to at least show up and say hello. Okay. Jonathan, you want to say something?
Yeah, Stephen, I really enjoy the conversation that's taking place right now, and I think a lot of people have actually hit it all on the head.
Yeah.
The reality is that we do, as business people, as consultants, as startup focused people, we do have to find ways to remove all those barriers. So I think the actual traditional like membership page or the thing that you presented is actually not the thing that everyone wants to see. Actually, I think where a lot of the real value is created is in all of the discussions that we've been having, which is in the way that we negotiate the deal with the consultant or the deal through. And a lot of people don't know how to approach those things. So if you can find a way to kind of say, well, here's a back end version where you can offer XYZ, and here's a upfront version where and here's the sliding scale where you just pull this, slider, and you can see where, okay, I'm paying a little bit more upfront, but I don't need to pay so much on the long end. Or I'm going to give a lot. I'm even going to give stock to this person for consulting, and I have very little upfront, and you are still, playing with that slider on your side in terms of revenue. I think that's where you gain a lot of value, is because you're now breaking down all those barriers to access, and what the real value that you're creating is actually a negotiation tool.
Yeah. So would that be better on the, that to me that's a project for the consultant to do. That's up to the consultant to be able to negotiate when to do that, correct? Or would it be focused on the platform to say, hey, this is maybe too high of a price for what you want to do based off of this experience, and put almost like a language model together to be able to triangulate information? Or would that more be like consultant focused? Because we've essentially built that onto the consultant side and said, here's your range, if you will. Like if I'm my fracture retainer, this is my range. Now the consultant negotiates what that would look like. And so I have a project now that is very low on the very front end. We want a functioning prototype. It's maybe 60% reduction in the total process cost. And then at month 5, it kicks into the higher side of it. So we've given that back to the consultant side rather than us saying it needs to be done this way. Is that?
I think if you can crack the code, like what Sue was mentioning, what Alyssa was mentioning, in terms of a true marketplace is trying to remove all the barriers so that transactions can take place. And that I find that the biggest issue in these situations is, am I billing, $200 an hour? Am I billing 10% on the project? I don't know sometimes what is ideal, and I don't know what the other side appreciates. So you have to really be good at negotiation. So if you can create through AI, through other types of engagements, you have a section of questions that each person answers. I need money every month, or I need something where somebody can help me like speed track this to a first prototype, but I don't have a lot to work with on the front end. You're going to be matching up people who are willing to like actually trade. And I think that could be really actually where the value is created, is in the art of negotiation between the two parties, and therefore you're actually fulfilling your purpose as a marketplace.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I fully hear you. It does make sense. I'm wondering if it takes autonomy away from the consultant, though, with saying, here's a set of parameters that we would recommend. Is that-
Yeah, I guess anyone could, like when you're getting a loan, anyone could negotiate with the bank and like say I want a half a point here or half a point there. You can have some standards, some industry, and that's where you also can bring some value. Is you can say this is standard industry. This is what you should expect. If let's say I'm doing business in the medtech space, but I'm popping back and forth between consumer products and medtech, and I lose sometimes a whole year, right, Joe, of like what's happening in the medical world, and then I pop back into it, and maybe things have shifted. You could add a lot of value, like, hey, this is where we see deals taking place. This is a sweet spot that actually has performed for other people, and you're going to actually steer me towards a successful transaction. I'm going to value that. I'm actually going to maybe even say I feel good about giving, a greater percentage to the platform itself because they help me actually close a deal.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also one thing, you're only as good as the people that are on the site, right?
Yeah.
And typically the people that are on the site, the consultants on the site typically don't need a lot of business, right? They're actively seeking projects, but they have a diversification strategy of having multiple clients at the same time, right?
Correct.
So would they pay, knowing that maybe they have some gaps here and there throughout the year, would they actually pay? I know my engineer wouldn't pay to be on the site because he doesn't need right.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the actual advertisement. He's sponsored by 3D printing and additive design manufacturing, so it's the key is to get those consultants that don't necessarily always need the additional business, right?
Yeah.
How do you get those on there? And that might be in informatics, right? Putting legal documents together, contracts together, throughput to where it lines the transaction up. They don't have to, and part of the thing with the consultants is they don't always get paid on time. So I think you have a really good idea here with the whole transaction process. But I don't think like Alex, did you want to chime in?
I guess. I mean, I pretty much said it all in the chat. But so I designed Fair Care MD back in 2009, which was a price line for healthcare. So I built one of these and I test marketed it by walking into thousands of doctors' offices and explaining and listening and whatever. So I've done the homework on this. But they also launched it, and millions of people came to the site. Thousands of people found deals that they liked, but it's basically a three-price system, you know, list price, acceptable price, low fee limit, one trial running, automated contracting, but you don't want to get involved in that mess, but you do want to automate the crap out of it. So that's an easy way to do it. But for the entire medical industry, I downloaded Healthcare Blue Book, took average rates, gave everybody templates, but it's also a great SEO play because you're going to have tons of content and all your consultants are going to edit the templates. Literally, I'd had doctors spending 72 hours, on it, literally online. We watch everything. So, but anyway, so I mean, I can talk about all these things endlessly. I don't want to take a conversation though, but I'm happy to talk to you directly about it, Steve. And this is
That was
great
all.
user feedback.
Yeah.
But if you want to know like the nuts and bolts of this, code for it, whatever. I mean, that's Ruby on Rails. Nobody uses that anymore. But I can tell you how to design it.
Yeah.
Alex is
It's-
your advisor. Alex is your perfect advisor.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to have a conversation, Alex. That'd be great. It's interesting I've got to come back and like, how do we build from the consultant side? Like Matthew and a lot of the people are on it. And so they've actually joined, and most of the consultants we've talked to, most of the companies we've talked to that have fractional employees all email me after to get on it. So it's good. The network of the people that are on there couldn't be more excited about. They're the most empowering, engaging, and they're the ones that have come up with it. So you're only as good as the people on the platform. Our CTO was employee number 2 at a high-end web marketplace, well, two-sided marketplace that knew that. They raised 60 million in their seed. That's exactly what he said the entire time. People, you're selling people essentially, but you want to build autonomy for them the entire time. So that's what we're trying to figure out of, from a consultant standpoint, does it make sense? And Alex, I'd love to hear your, go deeper into a conversation offline, but does it make sense to actually put these parameters in place for them when you're trying to build a place for them to build autonomy and say, this is what I would be, this is my range. So it's this fine balance we're trying to figure out. So, and again, this has been really awesome feedback. I really thank all of you. We need to be pushed on our model to make sure it does work. But Alyssa, this is not a platform for you. This is the platform when you're breaking into it, or you're right coming out of an incubator where you're like, hey, I had this nutrient-rich environment. Holy crap, now I'm in the world. What do I do next? And that's where we're seeing a lot of people come to us and saying, I don't mind any type of transaction fee, or I'll pay the additional fee for to lower that. And it's not been a pushback at all so far because they don't have access to it. And that's why we've kept it as low as we have as well, rather than like a 15-20% fee on top of it. And it's not paid for up front. It's paid for through like the usage of the entire project. So I hope I'm trying to like solve that question you guys have.
I'll get you this recording today because there's a lot in it. I'm sure you're going to want to go over it. I have 3 things that come to mind. One is probably a rhetorical question, but Alex can answer it later on with you. And that is, I have to wonder what you're trying to build. How much is out there right now that's either kind of similar or attempting to kind of do what you're doing? I have to imagine that there are others trying to do this. Second is, now that we've talked long enough now that I cannot verbalize how Hive and PitchSync work together.
Yeah.
Again, rhetorical for now. But third, and I think Tiger will agree with me on this, I can't emphasize the value that a weekly call can bring to your network. I don't believe premium really would exist today unless we did these weekly calls. And how do you feel about the relationship between Bone Chat and your Thursday conversations?
With my
Tiger?
Oh, you're talking to me?
I was.
Yeah, I mean, we have a topic every Thursday around a subject, a startup or subject. We try to solve startups' problems with the network. We've got 53 members now. They pay a monthly subscription and they all help each other. It's very collaborative. But in order to join, you have to be a member. And it's like Alyssa said earlier, it's a subscription base. There's, people are solving each other's problems every day. Yesterday, one of the founders was looking for knee surgeons in Canada, and the network came up with 10 really good names really fast. And that's really valuable knowledge. So yeah, you're welcome, Stephen. I mean, Stephen was a Bone Chat member. I don't know if you still are. I think you dropped off.
We dropped off. We're bootstrapping.
Yeah, I understand. But
it was great. It was expensive for us, but it was very, very valuable, but it was really, really helpful for us.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I mean, if I would have been smart enough, 5 years ago to have actually kicked in additional 10%, I mean, it would have streamlined everything, but would I have been smart enough, right? There's the ego at play too that we're looking at, right? If I would have known, and then plus I didn't know Matt Schomper was the best of the best, at that time. So how do I know? How do I connect those dots? And I think once you put that rating scale or that review scale in there, this thing will change the world. And especially if you make it cost effective for everybody. And Tigers was free at first, right? So
Yeah.
you get free and you say and Tiger did a great job. Once I hit 500 consultants and once we hit 500 companies, then it becomes this. And set milestones to encourage that speed, that there's a thing in advertising and marketing that you have to have a desire to, you have to have an endpoint, give people endpoints so they know that they have to get in quick.
Oh, that's
Okay.
scarcity.
Scarcity, thank you.
Welcome.
I was up way too late last night, or the early this morning and late last night
Mhm. Light
on
up
health
everywhere.
and healthcare and insurance stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it all. I mean, again, if I can get this recorded, this was a lot of really good feedback. Trying to figure out what that sweet spot is. But Joe, there are a few, but they're all in health tech that are trying to do this. On the med tech side, it's been overlooked, or it's just all very manual process at this point. So
Mhm.
definitely first mover. Oh, and then Alyssa, there will be a rating system right here as well that goes in. This is just the demo version, and then video of who the person is. Everybody records their own video, so I'm not sure if you've seen that yet, but yeah. So it's how do you humanize it a little bit? So
We are doing 2 more of these this year, and we're taking off for Christmas and New Year's and restarting on January 3rd. I'm really pleased about today's conversation, the folks that showed up, some relative strangers that I haven't seen in a while. And this is a rich conversation. Like Tiger said, we're trying to solve real things and talk about things that can help industry. So SFD, thank you very much.
thank you,
And,
appreciate it.
I'll see as many of you as can join next week. Until then, bye for now.
Thank you.